Hello everyone, welcome to Cooking with Logan. My name's Logan and today we're going to be making homemade pizza. You don't just get it from Little Caesars or in a box in the freezer aisle. You can make it at home and it's actually pretty easy and super delicious. So let's get started. To make your pizza, you're gonna need pizza toppings, obviously. I've chosen some that I like. You're gonna need pizza sauce, some pizza mozzarella, and for the dough, you're gonna need 1 1/3 cups of water. You're gonna need the flour that comes in your bag, but you're gonna wanna take a 1/4 cup out of it for dusting of the dough. Also, you'll need some salt, some sugar, some oil, and some yeast. So the first thing we have to do is activate our yeast. Now, yeast is sort of a bacteria that makes things rise. If you have anything like bread or pizza dough, it's probably got yeast in it to make it nice and airy and sort of give it its substance, its chew. But before we can use our yeast, we have to feed it. In order to feed your yeast, you're gonna wanna combine your sugar, your warm water, or you don't want it to be too hot, you don't want it to be too cold, as well as your packet of yeast, which you can just rip open and sprinkle into the bowl. Now you just want to give this a light mix, just for a couple seconds here. And then cover it up with a towel and let it sit for 5 minutes. This is gonna let the yeast sort of feed on that sugar, that warmth, and make it come alive. Okay, and after 5 minutes, we can see firmly that our yeast is alive. Take a look at that. It's all sort of foamed up, it's eaten up that sugar, and it's become active. Now we can add in our other ingredients, like the flour, the oil, and the salt. And from here, we're just gonna be mixing for a few minutes until we've got what looks like a rough dough. Doesn't hurt to mix with your hands either if you don't mind getting your hands dirty. Okay, we've got what looks like a rough dough. Don't worry if it's looking a little patchy. We got a little longer to go with this guy. Now we've got a knead, and to do that, we've got to dust our surface. So get some kind of maybe wood surface. You can get a cutting board or maybe a place with a mat. And then roll some of your flour out onto it. This is gonna make sure our dough doesn't stick. Then you wanna take your dough, here's mine, and we're kinda just gonna beat the heck out of it until it's sort of nice and smooth and sort of ready to consume. So the best way to knead is sort of by taking the dough and just pressing your palm into it like that. You're almost like palm heel punching it like that. You want to put all of your sort of gravity behind it and just sort of actively fold the dough over on itself and just go yeah, until the dough is nice and smooth and bounces back. I'll show you what I mean. And you're gonna want to do this for 5 minutes. So sort of work those muscles. I've only been doing it for about 2 minutes and look how smooth it looks already. I'm so impressed. Right, we've been at it for 5 minutes and our dough is looking nice and formed. The way you can test it to see if it's ready to rise, so you can poke it, and if it bounces back, it's good. And just a little bit of bounce is fine. Awesome. Now what you want to do is take the rest of your oil and oil up the bowl that you were using to mix. And then you just want to put your ball of dough in there as a ball. Make sure it gets all nice and oily. Turn it all around, get it coated in oil. And then you're gonna want to cover it with a towel. You can use that same towel you used before. And we're gonna put this in a warm, or at least not cold place for an hour to an hour and a half. But I promise it's worth it. Anyone's wondering, I actually put my dough next to my gaming console and TV just because those actually get pretty hot. Now, why do we have to let it rise for an hour to an hour and a half? Well, remember how we fed that yeast? Well, now the yeast is combined with all the other ingredients, and that yeast is actually going to continue to grow. And instead of just becoming big all on its own, like we saw at the beginning, it's gonna make the whole combination of dough much, much bigger. This is gonna give a lot of sort of volume, a lot of substance to our pizza dough that we need. It's also gonna add some much needed flavor and texture. So it's very exciting when you see it when it's done. While you're waiting all that time, you can prepare your ingredients like I did. See, I've got some tasty looking cheese. You shouldn't need more than just barely a cup of it, and some good ingredients. Yum. Now, of course, I'm gonna let those ingredients sit in the fridge until it's time. I'm also preparing my baking sheet. I've got maybe a teaspoon of oil here, and you just want to lightly grease your baking sheet so that your pizza doesn't stick. And if you've got some cornmeal laying around, you can add a little extra crisp to your pizza by putting just a little bit of cornmeal down as a base. Our pizza's just about done rising, so you just want to preheat this to a solid 475 degrees. All right, guys, our pizza dough is done rising. Remember how it looked before? And voila!
It's huge.
Yes, that's what the yeast does. Our pizza dough has become massive. In fact, it's so big we'll be able to make 2 whole pizzas with it. So the first thing you want to do is actually take your fist and punch the air out of this thing. Just one big hard time. See that? Oh, all the air is going out of it. It's getting all small, but that's okay. Then you're going to want to take it out. Whoop. And just cut it in half, because like I said, we're going to be able to make 2 whole pizzas out of this thing. So you're only gonna need half of it. So you take the other half, wrap it up in some plastic wrap, and put it in the fridge for up to a week or in the freezer for a few months. You wanna take your half dough and just sort of start to work at it around the edges, just lightly tugging until you make about a disc that's maybe a foot in diameter. Sort of set it down on the pan if you want, and just sort of start to work with it, just making sure that it's fairly even all around. You don't want any spots that are too thin or too thick, because then the dough is going to cook unevenly. So just sort of patiently sort of tug the pizza out by the edges. Now the one thing about pizza at home is it's hard to get an actual circle, but I'm telling you, this thing is going to taste better than it looks. Now of course the sauce goes on first. You can kind of just start with a little spoonful and see what you like. I like a pretty saucy pizza, so I ended up using about half of my can. First, for the toppings. Now most people like to put their toppings on top, as they are called. But I actually like to put mine under the cheese. That way the cheese sort of melts and gets in between all the toppings in a really yummy way. Of course, you can do these steps however you like. It's your pizza, your rules. Of course, the cheese. Who could forget the delicious cheese? And voila! We've got a delicious looking pizza. Just gotta wait for our oven to preheat, and we're gonna bake it. All right, and now you wanna throw it in your completely preheated oven for 12 to 15 minutes. All right guys, and all that waiting, all that time is finally going to pay off. Check this out. Ooh. Look at that. Our pizza was done after about 13 minutes. And look at its gooey, delicious, crispy, golden brown cheesiness. Oh, I can't wait to eat this thing. Unfortunately, you are gonna have to let it cool, not only because it's dangerously hot right now, but also because it helps the pizza sort of cook better through a process called staging. You have to let it rest for just a little bit longer. Give it 5 or 10 minutes. All right, guys, we've waited long enough. Now you can just take your pizza cutter and dig right in. Well, guys, it is truly delicious. Thank you so much for joining me on this pizza making journey. I hope yours goes well. I would love to see pictures. If you end up making this, please send us pictures or videos if you like. We'd love to see how your pizzas turn out. Also, we've got a contest going on this month, our Nailed It Challenge. We want you to take something hard and challenging, kind of like this, and sort of take a stab at it. Do your best. Take a challenge and make it fun. And then when you've made your own of something, we want you to send us a side-by-side picture to see how it measures up. Otherwise, we've got a Pictionary event going on Thursday. If you like drawing but don't really care how good you draw, well, this event's just for you. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be playing it over Zoom from 6 to 9 p.m. Just this Thursday, March 18th. To submit or sign up for either of those, please message us on Facebook, text us, or email us. Guys, thank you so much for joining us one more time. Hope you enjoy the rest of our events this March, and I'll see you later this week. Take care. Bye-bye.